I'm Bob Andelman. I'm a retired physician. I volunteer at Families First and also at Goodwin Health Center in Somersworth. My profession actually was anesthesia. So I practiced anesthesia in the Seacoast for 34 years. And I retired in 2013. And I was actually quite happily retired. I'd actually become interested in addictionology. And a few months before my license was going to lapse, I got the idea about trying to volunteer somewhere near home in the area of addictionology. And my wife, who's a retired nurse, and my son, who's a physician, and my closest friend, who's an internist, all said to me, "Why don't you not let your license lapse? Why don't you go retrain, do something in this area?" So I took some waiver courses in prescribing Suboxone, waiver meaning, courses provided by the DEA, and called Families First.
My name is Sally. I'm a nurse at Families First. I run our homeless healthcare program, and I've been working as a nurse on our MAT, our substance use program, since the beginning of this year. Our volunteer coordinator asked me if I had any volunteers that I would like to nominate for this year's Spirit of New Hampshire Awards, and I immediately thought of Dr. Bob. I feel very lucky that I've gotten to work so closely with him over the last 7 months since I've kind of started taking over the substance use program. And often a patient that he would meet through the mobile MAT program on a Wednesday, he would call them daily, sometimes even through the weekend, to make sure that they were okay and they got started on their medication and make sure that they followed up with their appointments. So he always just really went above and beyond to make sure that that people got the care that they needed. He does really develop close relationships with his patients, and they always mention that to me, that they feel like he really cares about them and takes the time to get to know them. And I think that building those relationships is such an important part of what we do in substance use.
When I got that email, I got to say I was stunned. My first reaction was I was just flabbergasted. And then the second reaction was I was grateful.
I was thrilled to hear that Dr. Bob had been a recipient of this reward, because I think that he is so deserving of it. The patients that we take care of are people that are usually completely marginalized and forgotten by society. And the fact that he really cares about them as people and gets to know them and validates their emotions and their trauma. Most people don't really give these folks the time of day.
It's been quite an experience. And one of my patients comes to mind, a very stable woman who essentially had no relapses. And she was going to find her dealer. And at the last minute, she got off at the Portsmouth exit, made her way to our facility at Families First, and basically showed up. We supported her very closely, and she never did have a relapse.
I would say now Dr. Bob is I consider him our reigning expert in substance use. He continues to keep himself up to date on the most up-to-date practices. He engages regularly in a chat room of other providers around the country who provide services to substance use patients, so that he's constantly learning. Anytime we have a tricky patient, he goes into the chat room to, try and kind of get advice from other providers, and then he brings that back to the team. So he has continued to grow and learn his own knowledge, and then shares that with the team as well, which I hugely appreciate.